There's a massive Bitcoin shortage going on out there right now. This lack of Bitcoin liquidity is causing the price to surge, a word you might not have heard since the 90s that you drank with Doritos. Bitcoin has doubled in price in just the last month alone. We haven't seen prices like this since the epic bull run of 2017. So what's going on? Why is there this sudden massive Bitcoin shortage? I've been in this industry watching since 2012, and this shortage is unlike any we've ever seen before. I'm going to tell you why today. Let's get it. BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap gets you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.io. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto. My name is Ben. Every day I show you how to make money in cryptocurrency. If you like money, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also, if anything in this video gets you feeling super bullish about Bitcoin, then make sure to take advantage of ByBit's Christmas offer. All you got to do is follow the directions seen here on the screen. Make sure to register for an account at bybit.bitboy.live. And of course, make sure you're always responsible with your trading. But ByBit is the premier destination to trade Bitcoin. This massive shortage in Bitcoin may make you feel like going long. In today's video, we will talk about the current demand for Bitcoin, who's been buying it, and how the halving is affecting the current price. I don't know if you've heard the news, but there is an unbelievable shortage of Bitcoin facing the market. And this is very serious. This has been happening since right around the time of the halving. This shortage is coinciding with a huge increase in the demand for Bitcoin, mostly because people watch my videos. This means that there just isn't enough Bitcoin to satisfy the increased demand. As per the universal economic law of supply and demand, when demand increases, supply decreases. This drives the price of the supply way up. Bitcoin is no exception, probably the best example, really. So what forces are at play here? What is causing this increase in demand, and why isn't there enough Bitcoin to go around? Well, there are a couple of compounding factors coinciding to cause the perfect storm in the colossal world of Bitcoin. Better batten down the hatches. First, let's take a look at the supply side economics of Bitcoin to see what's going on there. One of the major factors that affected the available supply is the recent Bitcoin halving. What is the halving, you ask? Well, let's break it down for you. So we all know, just like gold, Bitcoin is mined, but there's a major difference between these two scarce assets. With gold, the supply is expanded in order to meet demand. With Bitcoin, however, it is the opposite. While it is possible to mine more gold when demand increases, it is impossible to mine more Bitcoin. There can only be 21 million Bitcoin ever. That number is written into the underlying code that controls Bitcoin. The code is immutable. So unlike gold, in which more can be mined, or even fiat currency, in which more can be printed, which we see all the time, there's a limit to the number of Bitcoin that can be mined, which makes it a deflationary asset. That's huge. In case you're rusty on how Bitcoin mining works, I'll grab a tetanus shot for you. Let's quickly go over it so you can understand the role halving plays in Bitcoin mining, and thus the Bitcoin supply. Mining is the very backbone of how Bitcoin works. Mining is the underlying process critical to the proper functioning of Bitcoin. Mining plays two critical roles for Bitcoin. It verifies new transactions and creates new Bitcoin. Basically, every time a Bitcoin transaction occurs, it must be verified first before it can be added to the blockchain. This ensures that the correct person receives the Bitcoin that was sent to them. It also prevents bad actors from double spending. So miners are essentially like auditors. They protect the Bitcoin network by safeguarding all of the transactions. The mining process uses a lot of power and is very computationally intensive. So to incentivize miners for their participation, they're rewarded with Bitcoin for their work. Once a miner completes the verification of a transaction, they receive new, never-before-spent Bitcoin as compensation. This is how new Bitcoins are generated. This is called a block reward. By the way, if you want a more comprehensive explanation on mining, make sure to check out this video that I posted in May. So then, what is Bitcoin halving? Well, every 10 minutes, a block of Bitcoin transactions is verified by miners. In the beginning, the block reward was 50 BTC. That's right, 50 Bitcoin. However, this was back at a time when BTC was worth less than $1, and it could be mined in the background of your PC. In order to regulate the supply of Bitcoin, the block reward is cut in half every 210,000 blocks. This halving reduces the number of miners, and thus reduces the number of Bitcoin that are mined. This reduction in the supply has a direct impact on the price, and it is cyclical. For example, the first time that a Bitcoin halving occurred was in November of 2012. At that time, one Bitcoin was worth around $11. Within a year of the halving, the price of BTC started to shoot up, reaching its all-time high at the time of over $1,100. Right after this bull run, the price crashed, going down to around $220, where it stayed for the next few years. Then the next Bitcoin halving happened in July of 2016. Within a few months of this halving, the price of BTC started to go up again, eventually leading to the record-breaking and still talked about $20,000 bull run of 2017. Arguably, this bull run is what really brought Bitcoin to the main stage, where it's remained steadfast ever since. I've made room for it. So, as we have seen, a Bitcoin halving reduces the supply of Bitcoin entering the system, which causes a supply shock and in turn makes the price go up. When the third Bitcoin halving occurred in May, setting off the fourth Bitcoin cycle, investors knew that the price of Bitcoin was going to go up, as we've already seen with prices reaching historic all-time highs already, and we're just getting started. So investors are greedy to get in on the action, and they're buying up a ton of Bitcoin, which leads us to the other factor causing the Bitcoin shortage, the increase in demand. So now, let's take a look at the demand side economics of Bitcoin to understand what's happening there. While the last Bitcoin bull runs that the halvings caused were mostly driven by Bitcoin hodlers, this time around it's dynamically different. It's no secret the big companies have done a 180 with regards to their belief in Bitcoin. And as a result, institutional investors are buying up Bitcoin left and right. Recently, a leading cryptocurrency investment fund wrote a letter to their community about rising institutional interest in Bitcoin. Pantera Capital, which was an early investor in companies like BitGo and Coinbase, often uses blockchain letters to their community to illustrate trends. In this most recent letter called Bitcoin Shortage, the firm outlined how Square's Cash App and PayPal have recently launched the ability for their users to buy Bitcoin. This huge new user base is going to add to the already huge demand for Bitcoin, and these companies are preparing for it. According to Pantera, they estimate the Cash App is buying around 40% of all newly issued Bitcoin. Pantera also estimates that PayPal is buying almost 70% of the new supply of Bitcoins. That means that between these two companies alone, they are buying up over 100% of the new Bitcoin supply. No wonder there's a shortage. This is in addition to companies like Grayscale and MicroStrategy buying up Bitcoin for their capital reserves as a hedge against loss, almost like they know an economic collapse is coming. These big companies are finally getting wise to what we've known all along. Bitcoin is the future. I think this whole phenomenon is well encapsulated by Anthony Pompliano, we all know him as Pomp, in a recent interview that he gave to CNBC. In the interview, Pomp said,
I think the key piece here, and we've been talking about this now for almost 2 years, is just, Bitcoin is the kind of winner of a supply and demand exercise. And if you look at what happened in May, we had the Bitcoin halving. Obviously, the 1,800 Bitcoin a day went down to 900 coming into the circulating supply. And at the same time, we've had this macro environment that has forced people to look for inflation hedge assets. So you had capital flows due to the fear of inflation. And then also you've had many big buyers come into the market. So whether it's Square, PayPal, GBTC, et cetera, there's a new study that came out, I think from Pantera Capital, that said Square's buying up about 40% of the daily new incoming supply. PayPal already, even though they just launched, is buying up about 70% of that supply. And I think the key piece is people coming from the Wall Street kind of investing world have to understand is that most Bitcoiners are not going to sell their Bitcoin. Right, 63% or more of the Bitcoin hasn't moved in the last 12 months. And so what you're really seeing is just increase in demand. There's a lack of supply or a low supply, and that's driving the price higher. And I think that'll kind of continue going into 2021. and the price will appreciate pretty aggressively from here.
So you heard it here, folks. There's a massive Bitcoin shortage going on right now, caused by the halving and all the institutional investors buying up the available supply. And this is causing the price of Bitcoin to go to the moon. But the bull run has just begun. So take my word for it, guys. You better get as much as you can while you can to get as much profit as possible. And I don't even feel like saying I'm not a financial advisor. You should go do that. So that's it for this video. What do you guys think about this Bitcoin shortage? Do you have enough, or do you need to get more ASAP? And what do you think about all of these major companies buying up the Bitcoin supply? Drop me a comment down below. That's all I got. Be blessed. Bitboy out.